Assalamu alaikum and hi viewers, this is Sajjad Hussain and you are watching my YouTube channel. Welcome to this next episode on the Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. Viewers, in today's discussion, we are going to refer to some of the important literary devices and techniques that have been employed by the poet in this excellent mock epic, mock heroic, or heroic comic. So these are the three same synonymous terms that are used in order to define this point. Now, let's first discuss what is a mock epic. Mock epic is a poem in which all epic conventions or all epic traditions and all epic devices are presented at a miniature level, are presented at a smaller scale. These are metamorphosed and these are burlesqued. Now, this is what means that all the grandness and all the greatness and all that magnificence and all that exaltation that we see in an epic is reduced to miniature level. In an epic, action is grand, there are fights and there are battles and there are wars in which the heroes, in which the characters behave like heroes. But in a mock epic, the action is trivial that we see in the Rape of the Lock. The companions of Belinda and the companions of Lord Peter fight with one another. So this is what makes it a mock action, and the characters are not grand. In fact, they are caricatured. They are presented as cartoon-like figures. So this is how all that greatness is reduced to a miniature level, and this is what makes it a mock epic. The next important technique or a device that is there in the poem is that all the lines are in the form of heroic couplets. Now, what is a heroic couplet? Heroic couplet is a verse of two lines in which the last words rhyme with each other. For example, we can take the first two lines with which the poem starts. The first two lines are: what dire offense from amorous causes springs? What mighty contest rise from trivial things? So, springs and things, these are the two words that rhyme with each other, and this is an example of heroic couplet. And the entire poem is in the form of these couplets. Another important idea that you need to understand, that you need to keep in your mind is that the poem is in the form of iambic pentameter. The lines are in the form of iambic pentameter, but the difference between blank verse and this poem is that in blank verse, the lines of iambic pentameter are unrhymed. There is no rhyme scheme. But here, rhymed lines of iambic pentameter have been employed. So this is the difference between blank verse and rhymed lines of iambic pentameter. I have already discussed in one of my videos what is iambic pentameter. When there is use of 5 iambs or 5 feet in a line of poetry, it is called iambic pentameter. And 5 iambs or 5 feet means use of 10 syllables. Out of these 10 syllables, 5 are unstressed and 5 are stressed. I hope this is clear. Now, the next important technique that is there in the poem is pathetic fallacy. Now, what is pathetic fallacy? Pathetic fallacy is a literary device in which inanimate things, non-living things, or animals are given the quality of persons. So it is close to personification. But in personification, there is some abstract idea that is given the quality of a person. For example, if you have studied that poem uh, Liar by William Davis, uh, beauty's glance is employed. Now, beauty is an abstract idea, and glance is eyes or sight. So this abstract idea has been given the quality of a person. So it is an example of personification. Bony arms of reality in New Year's resolution by Elizabeth Sewell. Bony arms of reality. Reality is an abstract idea, and it has been given bony arms, which is the quality of human beings. So we can say that reality has been personified. Now, I was discussing the pathetic fallacy, and pathetic fallacy is a literary device or the literary term in which non-living things and animals are given the qualities of persons. For example, the waves dance. The waves dance on the river. Now, waves dance. Now, dance is a human quality. Dancing is a human quality, but this has been given to the waves. So, it is an example of pathetic fallacy. Similarly, the river Thames surveys with pride the huge buildings that are situated on its side. Now, the river surveys. Once again, this quality of surveying has been given to this river. So it is an example of pathetic fallacy. We can also give other examples. The curls conspire to deck Belinda's neck. Now, conspiracy is done by human beings, but this quality of, or this characteristic of conspiracy has been given to the curls. So we can say that pathetic fallacy has been employed. I hope, readers, this is clear. The next important term, next important technique that has been used is hyperbole. Now, hyperbole is the use of exaggeration in poetry. For example, poet says, "And ope those eyes that must eclipse the day." Now, which means that the eyes of Belinda are so shining and glittering that these can put the sun in the shade, or these can cloud the sun, or the eyes of Belinda has such glitter which is overwhelming as compared to the light of the sun. Belinda smiled and all the world was gay. Belinda smiled and all the world was happy. This is another example of exaggeration. This is another example of hyperbole. And mind it, the spellings of hyperbole are Hyperbole. This is how you pronounce it, hyperbole. Then there is another technique which is juxtaposition. What is juxtaposition? Juxtaposition means two things are placed adjacent to each other, but these two things are quite opposite to each other. So you can say when two opposite things are placed side by side with each other, are placed adjacent to each other, are placed parallel to each other, it is called juxtaposition. For instance, a dream has been whispered in the ears of Belinda by Ariel, who is a sylph. Now, exact nature of the tragedy that Belinda has to face has not been revealed. So there is a conjecture, there is a guess. And what is that guess? Either Belinda would break Diana's law, or she would break some frail china jar. Now, Diana's law means chastity, and breaking Diana's law means that she would lose her chastity or she would break a frail china jar. Now, on the one hand, on one side, there is virginity of Belinda, chastity of Belinda, purity of Belinda, which is great, which is grand. And on the other hand, we have that petty thing, a frail china jar, and both these have been placed side by side with each other. Either she would lose her necklace or her heart. Now, losing one's heart is something great, but losing one's necklace is something petty and ordinary. But both these have been placed side by side here. So, this is another example of juxtaposition. There are other examples as well, and you can find it on your own from the book, from the text. The next the next important technique or the next important literary term that is there in the poem is enjabment. Now, what is enjabment? Enjabment means that one line moves on to the next line for the completion of meaning, or the last line of a stanza or last line of a verse joins the next line of the stanza or the verse for the completion of the meaning. I hope this is clear, that in order to understand the entire meaning, there is a continuity that needs to be read. There is a continuity that needs to be explored. For example, when Belinda loses her lock and she is crying at the peak of her voice and her shrieks are pitiable, the poet Alexander Pope consoles her and tells her that she has lost the lock and that lock has drifted towards the heaven. It has become a part of constellation, and her name would be inscribed or written on that lock for the rest of her life. Therefore, she must not mourn for the loss of that lock. And he says, then cease, bright nymph, to mourn thy ravished hair. This is the first line. Then cease, bright nymph, to mourn thy ravished hair. Which hair? Which adds new glory to the shining sphere. Shining sphere is the sky. So here, the first line ends at here, but this line gives its complete meaning when we read it together with the next line. So there is a continuity by the end of the first line and the beginning of the second line. So this, or we can say that these lines are enjabbed. So this is called enjabment, Enjabment. Viewers, I hope this is clear, and we need to understand that these important techniques or these important literary terms are very crucial, very vital to understand the poem and in order to savor the taste of the poem. So I thought that I must discuss these terms with you. I hope these are very helpful. Keep watching, keep following. Thank you very much.